After a while, I had to admit something I didn't want to believe. I could see things other people couldn't. Not every night, not everywhere, but often enough that I stopped calling it coincidence. Then I came across the legend of La Llorona, and when I traveled out there to ask about her, a local told me in the calmest voice imaginable, "If you hear a woman crying by the creek after dark, pray she doesn't realize you can see her." For a long time, I tried to explain it away. Shadows in the wrong place. Figures no one else reacted to. At first, I blamed stress, lack of sleep, overwork. I'm a doctor, that's how I think. But after a certain point, the pattern became too clear. I wasn't just having bad nights, I was seeing things. Things that seemed aware of me. Things that sometimes looked back. That realization changed the way I moved through the world. And when I found the stories about La Llorona, I couldn't let them go. Most people know some version of the legend. A woman named Maria, beautiful, heartbroken. She throws her own children into the river. And when the shock of what she's done finally hits her, she becomes something else, a restless spirit, La Llorona. According to the stories, she wanders near rivers, dry creeks, irrigation channels, still searching, still crying, still looking for the children she can never bring back. Some say she brings death, some say she takes children. Some say all she has to do is realize that you can see her. That was the detail that stayed with me. Because by then, I already knew I wasn't like most people anymore. I didn't go there on impulse. I spent time reading first, old retellings, local accounts. Eventually, I chose a place that came up again and again in those stories. A remote stretch of land not far from a dried creek. I drove out there alone. No cameras, no crew, no one to impress. I wanted to know if the stories had any truth in them. By the time I arrived, the sun was already dropping. Dry earth, sparse brush, telephone poles, wind moving through open space. There was a tiny roadside store a few miles off the main turn. That was where I stopped first. The man at the counter looked older than the building itself. I asked him, carefully, if people around there still talked about La Llorona. He didn't laugh, didn't even look surprised. He just studied me for a second and asked why I wanted to know. He said most outsiders thought the story was just something parents used to scare children. But around there, people didn't joke about hearing a woman cry after dark near the creek. He said there were certain nights when the wind carried sound strangely. If you didn't know better, you'd think the crying was coming from somewhere far away. Until you realized it wasn't getting farther, it was getting closer. If you hear her crying by the creek after dark, pray she doesn't realize you can see her. And that was enough to tell me he believed it. I waited until night settled all the way in. I parked near a dirt access road and started walking toward the dry creek bed. The ground was uneven, loose dirt, cracked patches, scattered stone. The wind came and went in long breaths. The farther I walked, the less connected I felt to anything human. Silence out there feels absolute. I kept walking past dry brush, past a broken fence line. No rituals, no calling out, no trying to provoke anything. Just watch, listen, leave. That was the plan. For a while, all I heard was wind. Then I heard something else. At first, I thought it was an animal. It sounded like a woman crying. Not loud, not theatrical, just broken. It came from somewhere near the creek. It felt far away one second, then somehow closer the next. I already knew I wasn't going to leave. Not yet. I started walking toward it. The closer I got to the dry creek bed, the colder it felt. The temperature didn't drop gradually. It changed in pockets. That was when I saw the shape. A pale figure, still, half visible in the dark. My flashlight was still pointed low. Slowly, I lifted the beam. The light caught fabric first, white, long. Something like a dress. Then the outline of a woman. And then I heard the crying again. Only now it wasn't somewhere ahead. It was coming from her. The crying stopped. Then, very slowly, she turned her head. She knew I was there. No, more than that, she knew I could see her. That was the part that hit me hardest, because I had felt it before, with other things. That shift, that moment when whatever you're looking at stops being part of the background and becomes aware of you. And when she turned a little more, I saw her face. Pale, wet-looking, eyes swollen and dark as if she had been crying for years without stopping. And around her expression there was something worse than anger, need, desperation. A grief so old and so deep it had outlived everything human in her. Because the sound reaches you before the truth does. She took one step. The fabric of her dress barely moved, and for one impossible second, I thought I saw something small near her side. A child or the outline of one. Then it was gone. Once that idea got into my head, I couldn't shake it. I started noticing shapes near the creek bed, small movements where there shouldn't have been any. Not clear enough to swear to, not stable enough to trust. This wasn't just a spirit repeating her pain. This was something still reaching for what it had lost. And the worst part was the feeling that if I stepped any closer, I might stop being only an observer. I might become part of it. The next time she cried, it was louder. Closer. And wrong in a way I don't know how to describe. It no longer sounded entirely human. The grief was still there, but underneath it was something raw. She moved again, another slow step, then another. I backed away, one step at a time. Her face stayed fixed on me. She was measuring me against something. A child, a witness, a man, I don't know. But whatever she saw, it made her keep coming. I wish I could tell you I stayed calm. I didn't. The moment I heard what sounded like a child crying somewhere off to my left, it sounded close, too close. I turned toward the sound, nothing there. Then I turned back to her. And she was suddenly much closer than she should have been. Close enough that I could see details the dark had been hiding. The ruined exhaustion in her face, the streaks beneath her eyes, the way the skin around them looked swollen and raw, and the expression, not rage, not hatred, just endless loss. It didn't feel like I was looking at evil. It felt like I was standing in front of something that grief had hollowed out. I stumbled back, then turned and ran. I ran harder than I should have on that terrain. Loose dirt gave under my feet. Brush caught at my legs. Behind me, I could still hear her. Closer 1 second, farther the next. I didn't look back. I kept moving until I could see the road again. Until I could see my car. I got in, locked the doors, and sat there shaking, trying to breathe like a rational person. But the truth was, by then I already knew. I hadn't imagined her, and she had known I could see her. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the shape of that dress near the creek. The next morning, I told myself the same thing I always tell myself. That explanation might have held, if not for what happened later that day. I heard it again, not loudly, not from outside. Just faintly, a woman crying. And then, just as suddenly, I caught the smell of damp water where there should have been none. Something colder, like river water on old fabric. That was when I knew the night hadn't stayed at the creek. Some part of it had followed me back. I left that area the next day. What changed after that wasn't just what I believed about the legend. It changed what I believed about myself. I stopped pretending my experiences were coincidences. I could see things other people couldn't. And whatever exists on the other side of ordinary life, sometimes it knows when it's been seen. Not just that La Llorona was real, but that when she turned and looked at me by that creek, it felt like recognition. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind moves a certain way, I still hear it. A woman crying somewhere in the distance. And every time it happens, I have the same thought. Now she knows I can see her.